It's almost 10 at night, and Diep's sitting in her kitchen watching a pot of rice cakes cook. Her husband James is next to her, and he's crying. Not loud, just quiet tears running down his face. "What if we did a DNA test?" he says, "and it turned out we're related?" Diep goes completely still. She doesn't understand what he's saying. Related? DNA test? What is this about? But she looks at him sitting there, this man who's carried her through everything, and she realizes he's been carrying something heavy, something terrifying, and he's kept it to himself until now. What she says next is going to matter more than anything she's ever said. I'm going to tell you how this family got to this moment and what happens after. Settle in. If this story touches you, like and subscribe. Here we go. You know, there are some days that look ordinary on the outside but mean everything on the inside. Tuesday was one of those days for Diep. It's the week before Tet, that's the Vietnamese New Year. And Diep's in her kitchen at 6 in the morning. She's got banana leaves spread out on the counter, a bowl of sticky rice, beans soaking in water. She's making bant chung. Now, if you've never heard of bant chung, let me tell you, it's this traditional rice cake wrapped in banana leaves that Vietnamese families make for Tet. Takes hours to prepare. Takes even longer to cook. But it's one of those things you do because your mother did it, and her mother before her. Diep hasn't made these in years. Her daughter Nhi wanders in, still in her pajamas, dragging that stuffed orange she carries everywhere. The dog follows behind, tail wagging. "Can I help?" And Nhi asks. Diep looks at her, 6 years old, messy hair, eyes still sleepy. "You really want to?" "Yes, I know how!" Diep laughs. "Okay, come here." So they work together. Diep shows Nhi how to layer the rice, the beans, the pork. How to fold the banana leaves just right. It's awkward at first. Nhi's little hands can't quite manage the corners. Like this. Ms. Diep? Almost. Here. Let me help. Diep guides her hands, folding, tucking, tying the string around it. They make a tiny one just for Nhi. "This one's yours." Diep says, "We'll remember which one." Nhi beams. By the time they finish wrapping 6 cakes, it's almost 1 in the afternoon. They fill a big pot with water, stack the cakes inside, and Diep turns on the stove. "Now we wait," she tells Nhi. "These need to cook for 8 hours. 8 hours? Sometimes longer. You have to be patient with good things." While the cakes simmer, James is across town dealing with something much less romantic than banana leaves and sticky rice. He's at a plot of land he's hoping to turn into a workshop. Standing there with him is Mr. Han, a government official who handles construction permits. James needs this factory. Needs it badly. His current workshop is too small, and he's got orders backing up. But you can't just build a factory in Vietnam without jumping through about 17 hoops first. "Let's measure," Mr. Ontitik says, pulling out a tape measure. They walk the perimeter, 50 meters one way, 35 the other. "What about wastewater?" Mr. Han asks. "Where does that go?" James explains his plan, treating the water before it goes anywhere near the Suksumksi stream. He's thought this through. He's got permits for the wood he's using. He's checked every regulation. "Can I get approval by early next year?" James asks. Mr. Han pauses. Your paperwork's good, but it's busy season. A lot of businesses trying to start up. There's a wait in that pause. James understands what it means. Waiting. Uncertainty. The kind of thing that keeps a business owner up at night. After the measuring, they grab drinks at a nearby shop. James asks about industry codes, about transporting wood, about a dozen other technical things that probably sound boring, but matter enormously when you're trying to feed a family. Mr. Han answers each question carefully, professional, helpful, but not making promises. When James finally gets home that evening, it's past 8. The house smells amazing. That sticky rice cooking smell that fills everything. 2 Dieps sitting by the stove, watching the pot. Where's Nai? James asks. Sleeping. She didn't nap today, so she went down early. James looks at the pot. How long have you been cooking these? Since 1 o'clock. It's 8 now. 2 Diep smiles. They need time. Probably 2 more hours. James pulls up a chair next to her. Let me sit with you. You're tired. You should rest. I want to be here. So they sit together in the warm kitchen, watching steam rise from the pot. The dog curls up near Ni's room, guarding the door. Your mother called, 2 Diep says. She's going back to her hometown for Tet. I know. Hate. She wants to visit us on the 2nd day. James nods, but doesn't say much. There's something heavy in his silence. 2 Diep watches him. She's learned to read his moods over the years. Right now, he's carrying something. Have you prepared for Tet yet? He asks. Not much. Made some coconut candy. Bought treats for Nai. Maybe we should take a trip, James says suddenly. Go somewhere. Make some memories. 2 Diep stills. Why do you say it like that? Like what? Like we're running out of time. James looks at the pot. The steam, the banana leaves visible through the water. I'm just stressed about work, he says. End of year. A lot of pressure. But 2 Diep knows that's not all of it. She reaches over and takes his hand. Whatever it is, you can tell me. You don't have to carry it alone. James squeezes her hand back. Outside, the night is quiet except for crickets. Inside, the Ban-chung cooks slowly, hour after hour, the way good things do. Sometimes making something beautiful just takes time and patience and sitting with someone you love while you wait. They sit there for another hour, adding water when it gets low, watching the sitia steam curl up toward the ceiling. At some point, James speaks again. My mother's hometown is Hate, he says quietly. Did you know that? 2 Diep shakes her head. I didn't. Actually, I never asked. A lot of people from Hate moved to Hanoi back in the day. It's all kind of blended together now. There's something in his voice, something careful. 2 Diep waits. She's learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is just wait. There's something I need to tell you, James says finally, but I don't know how. Just say it. He looks at her, really looks at her, and his eyes are wet. What if he stops, starts again? What if we did a DNA test and it turned out we're related somehow? 2 Diep goes very still. What are you saying? I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe I'm just tired and overthinking everything. But my father's been saying things. And my mother going back to Hate right now. I just... He puts his head in his hands. Diep's mind is racing. DNA test. Related. What is he talking about? But she looks at him sitting there. This man who's carried her through so much. And she realizes he's terrified. James, she says softly. Look at me. He does... Whatever this is about, whatever you're worried about, we'll face it together. You understand? Together. But what if... No. Listen to me. Her voice is firm now. You have me. You have Nai. You have your mother. You are not alone in this. Whatever happens, you're not alone. A tear rolls down his cheek. Diep reaches over and wipes it away. You're supposed to be strong, she says gently. Not for yourself, but because Nai and I need you strong. We need you to be our support. Can you do that? James nods, takes a shaky breath. I'm sorry, he says. Don't be sorry. Just don't carry this by yourself anymore. We're a family. Families share the hard things. They sit in silence for a while. The pot bubbles. The dog shifts in his sleep. Finally, James speaks again. I've been thinking about taking you and Nee somewhere for Tet. Maybe up to the northwest. See the mountains. Diep smiles. Well, that sounds nice. I want us to have good memories, he says. Whatever happens, I want Nai to remember her parents taking her places, being together. We already have so many memories, Diep says. Right here, in this house. You sitting with me watching Ban Chung cook at 10 o'clock at night. James laughs a little. That's a memory? It's the best kind. Round 11. Diep checks the cakes. She pulls one out with tongs. Unwraps a corner of the banana leaf. The rice is soft. The beans are tender. The pork in the middle is cooked through. They're ready, she says. James helps her lift them out, one by one. They set them on a tray to cool, when Diep finds the small one, Nai's cake, and sets it aside. We'll let her unwrap this one in the morning, she says. She'll be so excited. James looks at the cakes, steam still rising from them. You know, he says. I never learned how to make these. My mother always did it. I can teach you next year. You think there'll be a next year? Diep turns to face him fully. James, yes, there will be a next year. And the year after that, and the year after that. Whatever you're scared of, we're going to get through it. Do you believe me? He looks at her for a long moment. Then he nods. I believe you. They clean up the kitchen together, put away the leftover ingredients, wipe down the counter. Before they go to bed, Diep checks on Nai. The little girl is sprawled across her mattress, one arm thrown over the stuffed orange, completely peaceful. Diep stands there watching her breathe, up and down, up and down. James comes up behind her and wraps his arms around her waist. We'll protect her, Diep whispers, no matter what. I know, James says, and I think that's what stays with me about this story. Not the dramatic moments, not the big reveals or the crises, but these quiet hours. A woman making rice cakes because that's what you do before Tet. A man sitting with her by the stove because that's where he wants to be. A little girl sleeping peacefully because her parents are in the next room. Sometimes love isn't about the grand gestures. It's about sitting up until midnight making sure the ban chung don't burn. It's about saying, we'll face it together, even when you don't know what it is yet. It's about patience and time and believing there will be a next year. Because some things, the good things, they just take time to cook. You can't rush them. You just have to sit there and wait and trust. Thanks for listening. If this touched something in you, hit like and subscribe.